is because you want to be at the cutting edge of technology. You're probably going to work harder than most. You're probably going to take a good amount of risk on how you get that done. But I also believe very much in a learning culture, which is we learn from everything that we do. Actually, we learn more from our mistakes than we learn from our successes, because with every product launch, we can say, hey, we could have done that a little bit better. With every new generation, we think about, what will I want to do differently in the future? And that's very much, who we are. I think we are a learning culture. We are a very collaborative culture, but at the end of the day, we like to win. And it's about having the best technology and the best products out there.
I love that. A learning culture is something we can all take home with us. Now, I want to shift over to talking a bit about the industry and AI. The semiconductor industry is as much a geopolitical story as it is a technological one. So how do you navigate an environment where policy decisions, such as tariffs, chip subsidies, and export controls, can make or break an industry leader?
Well, I think we have to, the world has changed. The world has changed in a way that we're in a industry where having the best technology can make such a difference. And like I said, it can make a difference in terms of getting a competitive edge in companies, and it can make a difference about competitive edge in countries. And so it's just part of the industry that we're in. I think the key is to have very good clarity on, we are a U.S. company. Clearly, there have been a lot of, conversations and discussions over the last, 5, 7, 8 years in terms of just how important the technology is and ensuring that the technology isn't used for, let's call it, not the purposes that that are aligned with U.S. interests. But I also think the market is super large, and there's a way to really balance both, and that's what we try to do. I'd like to say we are a global company in the sense that we operate across every part of the world, but as it relates to critical technology, we're very much focused on ensuring that we're compliant with all of the U.S. regulations. And in some sense, I'd like to view it as we are a very interested party in helping understand what is the best way to satisfy both interests, and that's what we do.
So seeing it as an opportunity as well. I like that.
Yes, it's really, really important to have your voice heard, particularly in an area that is so complicated, right? It's really hard to figure out where the boundaries should be, and companies need to step up and be part of that conversation.
Now, AMD has doubled down on inference rather than training, expecting inference to make up the majority of AI workloads for the future. So could you walk us through what the key technological and market signals have been that has led AMD towards that decision? And maybe for those of us that are less well-versed in what training and inference is, maybe perhaps it would trouble you to explain that.
Yeah, and again, maybe let me take a step back and just give a little bit of a landscape of where we are in technology today. It is an incredibly exciting time in technology today. Like, if you had asked me 5 years ago, the rate and pace of AI adoption that we've seen over the last 18 months, I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, this is like the most important sort of technology advance of the last 50 plus years. And what's different about it is so many people can be touched by it. And that's kind of what generative AI has done, right? AI has been around forever. It's been around for the longest time. But it was actually pretty hard to really get AI into our business flows. That's kind of what's different today, is that now you can see how AI can be adopted in many different ways. So this comment about training versus inference, look, I'm actually a believer in there's no one type of AI. Like, you're going to see AI permeate every part of our lives, whether you talk about the largest cloud environments, which are important today, or you talk about your environments at the edge when you think about industrial AI or robotics, or you think about personal AI, AI PCs, AI in your phones. I think you're going to see AI in all of those places. And our goal in life is to make sure that we have the right computing for the right applications. So to your question about inference versus training, I think that is a little bit more in terms of the tactics of a given year. I would step back from that and say, at the end of the day, you're going to have these amazing large language models that are out there, these foundational models. Some of them are going to be open, some of them are going to be closed. And then you're going to have many other models as well. You're going to have medium-sized models, you're going to have smaller-sized models, you're going to have models that can run on your phone that will give you personal AI capability. And the compute that you need for each of those is somewhat different. And our vision at AMD is that we can really create the right compute for each one of those environments. And that's really what we're focused on.
That's very helpful, thank you. I'd like to talk a little bit about AMD software as well. So some have said that AMD's is the Android to NVIDIA's Apple, more open, more flexible, but slightly less easy to integrate. So could you walk us through your decision to make AMD software open source and how you convince major AI players that AMD's flexibility outweighs NVIDIA's verticalization?
Yeah. Well, look, first of all, I would say NVIDIA is a great company, and they certainly have a very capable AI AI end-to-end capability. I think our view is a little bit different. Our view is, again, I view that you're going to have AI end-to-end in different compute sizes. There's no one size fits all in AI, and the open capability is just part of AMD's DNA. Like, that's who we are. Like, we believe in letting our customers and our partners choose what is the best component in each spot. Now, what that means is we do take on some extra work in terms of interoperability. We absolutely take on extra work. However, we believe in the end, we'll get a much larger developer ecosystem, as part of that. And so that has been our mantra. And what you'll see in AI today is, people actually, we're in a race to get to the next great app or the next big wave of usability. People want to make it as simple as possible, and that's what we're working on, is how do we make access to AI as simple as possible as you go forward.
Thank you. Now, recently companies like DeepSeek have been able to train their models at a fraction of the cost of US-based players. So what does this mean for the huge amounts of AI infrastructure investment, and what does this mean for AMD?
Well,
infrastructure of US-based players. So what does this mean for the huge amounts of AI infrastructure investment, and what does this mean for AMD?
Well, first of all, I think what's been most interesting about DeepSeek over the last month or so is just, it's an example of how innovation can really spark new thinking. Like, people didn't expect it. So put aside the exact detail of, how much, did they spend single-digit millions or double-digit millions on training? I think that's actually a secondary point. The primary point is you have a new model, an open model, that had some very innovative ways of putting things together based on what other people have done. And now it's spurred more excitement, frankly, because that's what's happened. Like, in the last month, people are like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. That's what DeepSeek did. Now, how do I take, and build upon what you saw in DeepSeek and make it applicable to my world? And so you're seeing many derivatives of this come about. So I think what it means for, again, put aside some of the market volatility, I think the market is way overly sensitive to things that happen. What you find is today what we're seeing is innovation sparks more innovation. And frankly, making AI more accessible, cheaper, more broadly adopted, will only give us more uses of AI. I truly believe that we are at the very, very early beginnings of AI adoption. It is nowhere near what like what you have today is good, but it's still quite primitive compared to what I think is possible, and we just need to have more cycles of learning in the process.
You've always had a really clear idea of what you want to be when you grow up, and so you've met many milestones with impeccable execution while others have stumbled. So looking forward, what are the
but it's still quite primitive compared to what I think is possible, and we just need to have more cycles of learning in the process.
You've always had a really clear idea of what you want to be when you grow up, and so you've met many milestones with impeccable execution while others have stumbled. So looking forward, what are the key strategic and execution risks that keep you up at night for AMD?
Well, I will perhaps differ with you a little bit about, I don't know if I can say I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I think, companies and people have, sort of a 5-year trajectory. Like, I used to say to people, hey, don't tell me what you want to be in 20 years. Like, what is a good milestone for you in 5 years? Because you can kind of see 5 years, right? 5 years is not 2 is too short. And 10 is maybe a little bit long because so much changes. So I answer that question, what do I want to achieve? I think we are at a place where, computing continues to be something that can drive fundamental productivity across our lives, across businesses, across the world. And I want AMD to be a very major player in unlocking that compute for the world. And some of the things that I see as opportunities for us, like we talk, we think about AI as I think about it in two aspects. One is sort of how do we make our businesses more productive? How do we make our lives more productive? Like you can see opportunities for that. But the more interesting thing is, how do we use the technology to, fundamentally change either business processes, business models, or even, more importantly, solving some of the world's. I like to say, I like to work on technology that solves some of the world's most important problems. Like AI can help solve, one of the many of those. And I think about what can AI do in healthcare? What can AI do with drug discovery? What can we do with climate change and these things? When you take a technology that's fundamentally very capable and put it on turbocharge to solve some of these things that frankly we haven't solved yet, even though we have a lot of smart researchers and a lot of great computing, it still takes like years to solve some of these problems. If we can take years down to months or weeks, now we're talking about the power of technology. So those are some interesting milestones for the next 5 years.
Right. Well, while we're on the topic of milestones in the future, we're joined by many MBA students, most of whom were born at the cusp of the internet and are now graduating on the cusp of the AI revolution. So you've also said that AI is the most transformative technology you've seen in your career, and some have said that today will be the slowest day of AI development for the rest of our lives. So with that in mind, what's next and how should we prepare?
Well, I think what's next is we should expect that the only constant is change, and things will continue to progress at a very fast rate. So I do believe in this notion of, especially for you guys, you guys are super lucky because you are at a place where, I think we're at the beginning of a wave. And it really is about just being, always being in that learning mode, right? I view any education as not job training. We're not, you didn't, any education as not job training. We're not, you didn't get an MBA for job training. I didn't get a PhD for job training. You get these degrees to learn how to think, to learn how to solve problems, to learn how to, really kind of see the future. And so that's what I would view as really kind of see the future. And so that's what I would view as sort of my comments to this team. What I've learned over the last 18 months is incredible. And every day I'm learning something new about how the technology is going to be used, how our customers are using technology, how we can actually, I really like the idea of 1 + 1 is greater than 3. So how do you take, let's call it the power of our expert knowledge, which is in hardware, software systems, together with our partners who are great in applications and sort of the end user capabilities, and marry that together to build 1 + 1 is greater than 3.
Right. And so if we take that change will be a constant, how do you stay focused yet nimble at the same time and executing on your kind of 5-year milestone?
Well, I think the key is to always, you have to have a very clear sort of roadmap of what you want to do, but you have to enable yourself to get input into whether you're doing the right thing. Like agility is super important in today's world. I think you see it in just how fast things are changing. I mean, I think the power of social media, the power of just the cycles that it used to be for research and for new products to come out is now much, much shorter because you don't go through quite the same incubation times of before. And so, yeah, I think it is about continuing to be very agile and nimble. And what we have certainly seen in the process is that collaboration is a big piece of that. Like I learn from every single conversation that I have with our customers, with our partners, with industry folks, and that helps us align on what are the next big things that one needs to do.
We're excited to see what AMD will do next. Now, before we open up for audience Q&A, I have one more question for you. The theme for this is View from the Top is leaving your mark. So one question we have for all speakers is, Lisa, how would you like to be remembered?
I would love for people to remember AMD as building some of the most important technology in the world.
I love that. Now we'll open up for audience Q&A. There's a couple of mics running around. If you're selected, please state your name, your Stanford affiliation, and then your question.
Hi, Lisa. My name is Josh Miner. I'm an MBA 1, and before this, I was at AMD for the last 4 years. So it's great to see you again.
This was not a planted question, I promise you. I have no idea what he's going to ask.
You mentioned that AI today is good, but still quite primitive. What are some of the technological advancements that you are most excited about in the next few years on that hardware-software side?
Yeah. Well, when I say that it's good, but it could be better. Look, I think we've all experienced what ChatGPT or DeepSeek or any of these models can do, and now we've added these reasoning capabilities, which is also pretty impressive. But I think there are two vectors that still need a lot of work. One is there is a view of if we can get the cost down, sort of the cost per inference query, or the longer of if we can get the cost down, sort of the cost per inference query, or the longer your query, if you have to wait a few seconds or maybe sometimes 30 seconds or 60 seconds, you may not like that. You want to be able to get it such that it is instant information. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that it's accurate, right? Part of, and I know we believe it's gotten so much better in the last 18 months, but you still are not 100% sure that it's accurate. And so there's a lot of work that can still be done in terms of really taking the output of these models and turning them into something. You've heard about maybe the comment about agents and having lots and lots of agents. Like that is super exciting because that's how you really get AI to not just give you information, but be able to take on some tasks on its own. But you really need to ensure that it does it right. And so there's so much work in those areas going on right now that I think will continue to advance and progress going forward.
Thanks so much for coming. My name is Derek. I'm an MBA 1. I'm also from Taiwan, so you're a huge inspiration to me. And my question is, Apple earlier today announced a $500 billion plan to bring AI server assembly back to the US, especially under the current administration. How do you view the future of semiconductor manufacturing here in the US? And more importantly, what role does Taiwan play in that process?
Yeah, I think it's a very much top of mind point. And I think the top of mind point for everyone, whether you're talking about US or Taiwan or the European countries, is everyone wants resiliency in their supply chain, right? You want to believe that no matter what happens, you have access to the most important components, locally and in region. And so, U.S. manufacturing, locally and in region. And so, U.S. manufacturing continues to be a very big topic of conversation. I'm a big believer, proponent that we need to bring more semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States. I'm also a big believer, and you can't do it overnight. There are reasons that the supply chain became much, much more efficient for Taiwan. Taiwan today still has the vast majority of all advanced semiconductors, but more of it will move. And it's the right thing to do because you need resiliency in the supply chain. So I think with the CHIPS Act that was put in place a few years ago, and then certainly the Trump administration, the new administration, is very focused on bringing more manufacturing and investment back to the U.S. I think we're going to see that happen. It'll just take a little bit of time.
I'm Nico Enriquez. I'm a principal at Future Ventures, a deep tech VC, second-year MBA. There's talk of a potential overbuild in data centers. Microsoft has started to lease their data centers rather than buy, for example. Do you think there is a bubble in this space, and how do you hedge for that case?
Yeah, I look at this on a much longer time scale versus a very tactical time scale. I think on the longer time scale, we need more data centers and we need more power. And frankly, the largest inhibitor over the last 18 months for perhaps even more progress was just the entire supply chain was not ready. Like, we needed more chips, we needed more power, we needed more data centers, and as a result, there's more build happening in that area. From my perspective, we are at a place where compute is still the scaling laws would say that more compute will get you better answers and will allow you to get the technology more adopted across the world. So I'm more of a bullish on that than not.
Benji Warburton, first year undergrad. So Jensen was here 2 weeks ago, and I asked a question about the kind of monopoly they have on all the kind of hardware used for pre-training. Does AMD plan to try and challenge NVIDIA on this? And if so, what's the timeline?
So let me say, I do not believe that there will ever be a case where there's only one technology that's used for something. And look, pre-training is very important. Training in general is very important. So I was going to say, Michael, to your question earlier, I view this as a continuum between inference, training, reinforcement learning. All of these things require very fundamental, similar technologies. So yes, you will see today there's quite a bit of training that's being done on AMD, but you'll see a lot more as we go forward.
I'm studying in Stanford for Ignite program. My question is, so since it's just a big chance for AI, do you think it's a good chance for students to start up their own business after graduation, or you think it's a good chance to work for big companies?
Yeah, I think there's no one right answer to that. It depends on the person. I think there are benefits to starting your own company if you want to. If you have a great idea, and certainly, Silicon Valley is a place where lots of startups have been super successful. AI is an area where there are lots of startups. Then you have the opportunity to get the funding and support and a lot of mentorship and capability. And there's also lots of advantages to working for a big company. In my world, I've had the opportunity to, I think, try so many different things that would be hard to do in a startup environment, and I've learned along the way. So it really depends on what makes you tick. I will say that I've had a lot of opportunities throughout my career to potentially run smaller companies, and for me, the important thing wasn't I had to get to CEO as fast as possible. Like that was not the motivation. I thought I would like to be a CEO, but that wasn't my motivation. My motivation was to work in something where I could make a big difference on the industry. And so for that, I needed a bigger company because I didn't think I was going to find that in a startup, at least to start with. But then again, there's some great examples here in the, if you look at the pipeline of companies that have come out of Stanford, if you look at the pipeline of companies in AI today, where people are making tremendous difference, I think either are great options.
Thank you so much.
This has been really fun. It's a view from the top tradition to end with a couple of rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask you a question and you say the first thought that comes to your mind.
Okay.
What is one hobby that most people don't know about you?
Well, I do like to box for exercise, and I also greatly enjoy Texas Hold'em. So my sales guys like to play Texas Hold'em with me.
I would not want to be on the other side of the table with you. If you weren't leading AMD, what would you be doing?
Oh, hopefully improving my golf handicap. My handicap has gotten worse as I've become CEO, so I'd have to have go the other
You should
way
check
again.
out the golf course.
Yes. I wouldn't mind an invitation someday if somebody wants to invite me.
What is one piece of tech you can't live without?
I think as we're all stuck to our phone, but probably the thing that I really like is, I've really gotten used to using Spotify on my phone, and it's really nice to be able to kind of carry your stuff everywhere you go. So yeah.
What is one piece of advice to be broadcast across Stanford?
I would say dream big, right? Dream big. I mean, you guys are this is the time to have a big, bold, audacious dream and follow your dreams.
And finally, one word to describe AMD's future.
Phenomenal.
Lisa, it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much.
Our parents and families. And above all, thank you for this extraordinary honor. It is deeply meaningful to be here with Carnegie Mellon, one of the world's great universities and one of the rare places that invents the future. Today is a day of pride and joy, a dream come true for you, but not only for you. Your families, teachers, mentors, and friends help carry you here. Before we talk about the future, thank them. This day belongs to them too. Graduates, please stand on Mother's Day. This is another step in your life. But for her, this is a dream come true. Please sit down.
after the spring, I'm quite too slow to quit. No more than a jest, ever feeding up the fallacy, creating this master doubt. Inside this big machine with all of the rest.
CMU students, like robots, take instructions one at a time. To see your graduate, to see you. Okay, everybody, focus. I have something important to tell you. To see you graduate from one of the world's great institutions, this is her moment too. My mom and dad are deeply proud of me as well. My journey is their journey. I am their dream come true. And their dream was the American dream. Like many in this audience, I'm a first-generation immigrant. My father had a dream to raise his family in America. When I was 9 years old, he sent my older brother and me to the United States. We ended up at a Baptist boarding school. In Oneida, Kentucky, coal country, a town of a few hundred people. 2 years later, my parents left everything behind to join us. They came with little to nothing. My father was a chemical engineer. My mother worked as a maid at a Catholic school. She woke me up at 4 a.m. in the morning to deliver newspapers. My older brother got me a job as a dishwasher at Denny's, which at the time felt like a major career advancement. Felt like a major career advancement. That was my view of America. Not easy, but full of opportunities. Not a guarantee, but a chance. My parents, not a guarantee, but a chance. My parents came here because they believed America could give their children a chance. How can we not be romantic about America? I went to Oregon State University. I met my wife, Lori, when I was 17 years old. I was the youngest kid in school. We were sophomore lab partners. She was 19. An older woman. I beat out 250 other boys in class and won her heart. We've now been married for 40 years. We have two amazing children, both working at NVIDIA. When I was 30, I started NVIDIA with Chris Malachowski and Curtis Preem, two amazing computer scientists. We wanted to build a new kind of computer, one that could solve problems ordinary computers could not. We had absolutely no idea how to build a company, raise money, or run NVIDIA. I just thought, how hard could it be? It turns out it is super hard. Our first technology didn't even work. We nearly ran out of money. At one point, I had to fly to Japan and explain to Sega's CEO that the technology they contracted us to build would not work. Asked to be released from a contract we could not complete. And then asked that they still pay us. Without the money, NVIDIA would vaporize. It was embarrassing, humiliating, and one of the hardest things I have ever done. And Sega's CEO, Madri-san, said yes. I learned early that being CEO is not about power, but the responsibility that comes with keeping the company alive. And that honesty and humility can be met with generosity and kindness, even in business. We used the money to reset the company, and out of desperation, we invented new ways of designing chips and computers that we still use today. For 33 years, NVIDIA had reinvented itself over and over again, each time asking, how hard can it be? And each time learning, it's harder than we thought. But through those experiences, we learned never to see failure as the opposite of success. Each failure is just another learning moment, a humility moment, a character strengthening moment. The resilience forged through setbacks is what gives you the strength to go again. Today, I am one of the longest serving CEOs in technology. Longest serving CEOs in technology. NVIDIA, the body of work I share with 45,000 extraordinary colleagues, is my life's work. Now it's your time to realize your dreams. And the timing could not be more perfect. My career started at the beginning of the PC revolution. Your career starts at the beginning of the AI revolution. I cannot imagine a more exciting time to work, to begin your life's work. AI started right here at Carnegie Mellon. I've heard countless AI jokes in the last 24 hours here in Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon is one of the true birthplaces of artificial intelligence and robotics. In the 1950s, researchers here created the logic theorist, widely recognized and considered the first AI computer program. In 1979, Carnegie Mellon founded the Robotics Institute. This morning I visited with Robo Club, the first academic institute devoted entirely to robotics. Artificial intelligence has gone on now to reinvent computing completely. I have lived through every major computing platform shift: mainframes, PCs, the internet, mobile, and cloud. Each wave built on the one before. Each expanded access, each transformed industries and society. But what is about to happen now is bigger than anything before. Computing is undergoing a complete reset, not since modern computing was first invented. For 60 years, computing worked the same way. Humans wrote software, computers executed instructions. That paradigm is over. Artificial intelligence has reinvented computing, from human coding to machine learning, from software running on CPUs to neural networks running on GPUs, and from following instructions to understanding, reasoning, planning, and using tools. A new industry has emerged to manufacture intelligence at scale. Because intelligence is foundational to every industry will change. For many, AI creates uncertainty. People see AI writing software, generating images, driving cars, and naturally wonder what happens next. Will jobs disappear? Will people be left behind? Will this technology become too powerful? Every major technological revolution in history created fear alongside opportunity. When society engages technology openly, responsibly, and optimistically, we expand human potential far more than we diminish it. So first and above all, we must be clear-eyed. Artificial intelligence, the automation of understanding, reasoning, and problem solving, is one of the most powerful technologies humanity has ever created. And like every transformative technology before it, it will bring both great promise and real risks. The responsibility of our generation is not only to advance AI, but to advance it wisely. Scientists and engineers have a profound responsibility to advance AI capabilities and AI safety together. Policymakers Policymakers have a responsibility to create thoughtful guardrails that protect society while still allowing innovation, discovery, and progress to move forward. History shows that societies that retreat from technology do not stop progress. They only surrender the opportunity to shape it and to benefit from it. So the answer is not to fear the future. The answer is to guide it wisely, build it responsibly, and ensure that it benefits reach as many people as possible. We should not teach fear of the future. We should engage it with optimism, responsibility, and ambition. Only a fraction of the people in the world know how to write software. Now, anyone can ask AI to build something useful. A shopkeeper can create a website and grow a business. A carpenter can design a kitchen and offer new services to clients. The AI writes the code. Everyone is now a programmer. For the first time, the power of computing and intelligence can truly reach everyone and close the technology divide. The first time. And like electricity and the internet before it, AI will require trillions of dollars of infrastructure investment. This is the largest technology infrastructure build-out in human history, and a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reindustrialize America and restore the nation's capacity to build. To support AI, America will build chip factories, computer factories, data centers, and advanced manufacturing facilities across the country. AI gives America the opportunity to build again. Electricians, plumbers, iron workers, technicians, builders, this is your time. AI is not just creating a new computing industry, it is creating a new industrial era. Powering this new infrastructure will require enormous amounts of energy. But it is also driving one of the largest investments in energy infrastructure in generations, modernizing the grid, expanding power generation, and accelerating sustainable energy. And yes, AI will change every job. But the task and the purpose of a job are not the same. Many tasks will be automated. Some jobs will disappear. But many new jobs and entire new industries will be created. Software coding tasks are increasingly automated. But using AI, software engineers can expand the search for solutions, allowing them to tackle far more ambitious challenges. Analyzing radiology scans is increasingly automated. But using AI, radiologists are elevated to better diagnose disease and care for patients. AI does not replace human purpose. It amplifies human capability. That is why, even as AI writes more code and analyzes more scans, demand for software engineers and radiologists continue to grow. AI is not likely to replace you, but someone using AI better than you might. So a good thought experiment is this. Do we want our children to be supercharged by AI, or be left behind by those who are? No parent wants their child left behind. So let us build AI safely. Let us also imagine an optimistic future, one our children are excited to be part of, inspired to help build. So we can and must do 4 things at once. Advance safely, create thoughtful policies, make AI broadly accessible, and encourage everyone to engage. Everyone should have AI. Opportunity should not belong only to the people who can code. Class of 2026, you are entering the world at an extraordinary moment. A new industry is being born. A new era of science and discovery is beginning. AI will accelerate the expansion of human knowledge and help solve problems once beyond our reach. We have the opportunity to close the technology divide and bring the power of computing and intelligence to billions of people for the very first time. To reindustrialize America and restore our capacity to build, and to help create a future more abundant, more capable, and more hopeful than the world you inherited. No generation has entered the world with more powerful tools or greater opportunities than you. We are all standing at the same starting line. This is your moment to help shape what comes next. So run, don't walk. Carnegie Mellon has a motto I love. My heart is in the work. So put your heart in the work. Build something worthy of your education, your potential, and the people who believed in you long before the world did. Congratulations, Carnegie.
That 3 major technology choices, all 3 choices were wrong. Okay, so this is how incredibly smart we were. But the moment we went public, they sold it. They go, wow, that's a miracle. And so
wow.
They sold it. When NVIDIA started in 1993, we were trying to create this new computing approach. The question is, what's the killer app? And the problem we wanted to, the company wanted to create a new type of computing computing architecture, a new type of computer that can solve problems that normal computers can't solve. Well, the applications that existed in the industry in 1993 are applications that normal computers can solve, because if the normal computers can't solve them, why would the application exist? And so we had a mission statement for a company that has no chance of success. But I didn't know that in 1993. It just sounded like a good idea.
Right.
So I went to Japan because the arcade industry had this, at the time of Sega, if you remember.
Sure.
The arcade machines, they came out with 3D arcade systems. Virtua Fighter, Daytona, Virtual Cop. All of those arcade games were in 3D for the very first time. And the technology they were using was from Martin Marietta, the flight simulators. They took the guts out of a flight simulator and then put it into an arcade machine. The system that you have over here, it's got to be 1,000,000 times more powerful than that arcade machine. And that was a flight simulator for NASA.
Whoa.
And so they took the guts out of that. They were using it for flight simulation with jets and, a space shuttle. And they took the guts out of that. And Sega had this brilliant computer developer. His name was Yu Suzuki. Yu Suzuki and Miyamoto, Sega and Nintendo, these were the incredible pioneers, the visionaries, the incredible artists. And they're both very, very technical. They were the origins, really, of the gaming industry. When you're a startup and the mission statement is the way we described, you're not going to have too many customers calling you. And so we had really nothing to do. And so after lunch, we would always have a great lunch. After lunch, we would go to the arcades and play the Sega Virtua Fighter and Daytona and all those games. And analyze how they're doing it, trying to figure out how they were doing that. And so we decided, let's just go to Japan and let's convince Sega to move those applications into the PC. And we would start the PC gaming, the 3D gaming industry, partnering with Sega. That's how NVIDIA started.
Wow.
And so in exchange for them developing their games for our computers in the PC, we would build a chip for their game console. That was the partnership. I build a chip for your game console, you port the Sega games to us, and then they paid us at the time quite a significant amount of money to build that game console. And that was kind of the beginning of NVIDIA getting started. And we thought we were on our way. And so I started with a business plan, a mission statement that wasn't possible. We lucked into the Sega partnership. We started taking off, started building our game console. And about a couple years into it, we discovered our first technology didn't work. It would have been a flaw. It was a flaw. And all of the technology ideas that we had, the architecture concepts were sound, but the way we were doing computer graphics was exactly backwards. Instead of, I won't bore you with the technology. We chose a bunch of technology approaches that 3 major technology choices, all 3 choices were wrong. Okay, so this is how incredibly smart we were. And so, in 1995, mid-95, we realized we were going down the wrong path. Meanwhile, the Silicon Valley was packed with 3D graphics startups because it was the most exciting technology of that time. So we were the first company to start. We found ourselves essentially dead last with the wrong answer. And so the company was in trouble. And ultimately, we had to make several decisions. The first decision is, well, if we change now, we will be the last company. And even if we changed into the technology that we believe to be right, we'd still be dead. And so that argument, do we change and therefore be dead? Don't change and make this technology work somehow? Or go do something completely different? The second problem we had was our company was running out of money. And I was in a contract with Sega. And I owed them this game console. And if that contract would have been canceled, we'd be dead. We would have vaporized instantly. Whew. And so I went to Japan and I explained to the CEO of Sega, Iri Majiri, really great man. He was the former CEO of Honda USA, went back to Sega to run Sega, went back to Japan to run Sega. And I went to him and I said, listen, I've got some bad news for you. And first, the technology that we promised you doesn't work. And second, we shouldn't finish your contract because we'd waste all your money and you would have something that doesn't work. And I recommend you find another partner to build your game console.
Whoa.
And so I'm terribly sorry that we've set you back in your product roadmap. And third, even though I'm asking you to let me out of the contract, I still need the money. Because if you didn't give me the money, we'd vaporize overnight. And he said, but it's very likely your company will go out of business, even with my investment. And it was completely true. Back then, 1995, $5 million was a lot of money. It's a lot of money today. $5 million was a lot of money. And here's a pile of competitors doing it right. What are the chances that giving NVIDIA $5 million, that we would develop the right strategy, that he would get a return on that $5 million or even get it back? 0%. You do the math, it's 0%. If I were sitting there right there, I wouldn't have done it. $5 million was an amount of money to Sega at the time. And I told him that I don't even know exactly what I said in the end, but I told him that I would understand if he decided not to, but it would make the world to me if he did. And he went off and thought about it for a couple of days and came back and said, well, do it.
Wow. Did you have a strategy to how to correct what it was doing wrong? Did you explain that to him?
Oh, man, wait until I tell you the rest of it. It's scary, even scarier.
Oh, no.
And so what he decided was Jensen was a young man he liked. That's it.
Wow.
To this day.
That's nuts. But the world owes that guy.
No doubt.
Right?
If he would have kept that the investment, I think it'd be worth probably about $1 trillion today. I know. But the moment we went public, they sold it. They goes, wow, that's a miracle. And so
wow.
They sold it. Yeah, they sold it at NVIDIA valuation about $300 million. That's our IPO valuation, $300 million.
Wow.
And so anyhow, I was incredibly grateful. And then now we had to figure out what to do. because we still were doing the wrong strategy, wrong technology. So unfortunately, we had to lay off most of the company. We shrunk the company all back. All the people working on the game console, we had to shrink it all back. And then somebody told me that, but Jensen, we've never built it this way before. We've never built it the right way before. And so, luckily, there was a textbook written that 3 major technology choices, all 3 choices were wrong. Okay, so this is how Bryce overnight. Now we had to figure out what to do because we still were doing the wrong strategy, wrong technology. So unfortunately, we had to lay off most of the company. We shrunk the company all back. All the people working on the game console, we had to shrink it all back. And then somebody told me that, but Jensen, we've never built it this way before. We've never built it the right way before. And so, luckily, there was a textbook written by the company Silicon Graphics. And so I went down to the store. I had $200 in my pocket, and I bought 3 textbooks, the only 3 they had, $60 a piece. I bought the 3 textbooks. I brought it back and I gave one to each one of the architects, and I said, read that and let's go save the company. So when we reimagined the technology of 3D graphics, we reimagined it in a way that manifests today, the modern 3D graphics. We really invented modern 3D graphics. But we learned from previous known arts, and we implement it fundamentally differently.
What did you do that changed it?
Well, ultimately, the simple answer is that the way Silicon Graphics works, the geometry engine is a bunch of software running on processors. We took that and eliminated all the generality, the general purposeness of it, and we reduced it down into the most essential part of 3D graphics, and we hard-coded it into the chip. And so instead of something general purpose, we hard-coded it very specifically into just the limited applications, limited functionality necessary for video games. That was our big invention. And of course, the question is how do you compete against these 30 other companies doing what they were doing? And there we did several things. One, instead of building a 3D graphics chip for every 3D graphics application, we decided to build a 3D graphics chip for one application. We bet the farm on video games. And then the second thing that we did was we created a whole ecosystem of working with game developers and getting their games ported and adapted to our silicon so that we could turn essentially what is a technology business into a platform business, into a game platform business. We were the first technology company to build all of this incredible technology in service of one audience, gamers. Now, of course, in 1993, the gaming industry didn't exist. But by the time that John Carmack came along and the Doom phenomenon happened and then Quake came out, as you know, that entire
changed the world.
That entire community, boom, took off. If you just kind of, in the beginning was no gaming industry. We had no choice but to focus the company on one thing. That one thing.
It's a really incredible origin story. It's amazing. Like you must be like look
Started
back.
with a disaster is
That
what.
$5 million, that pivot with that conversation with that gentleman, if he did not agree to that, if he did not like you, what would the world look like today? That's crazy.
Oh wait, then our entire life hung on another gentleman. So, as you know, $5 million doesn't last long, and so every single month, we were drawing down. You have to build it, prototype it. You have to design it, prototype it, get the silicon back, which costs a lot of money. Test it with software. Because without the software testing the chip, you don't know the chip works. You didn't have that much time to tape out a chip, send it to a foundry, TSMC, get the silicon back, test it, send it back out again. There was no shot, no hope. And so the math, the spreadsheet doesn't allow us to do that. And so I heard about this company, and this company built this machine. And this machine is an emulator. You could take your design, all of the software that describes the chip. You could fix it all before I send it to the fab.
Whoa.
And if I could do that, when I send it to the fab, it should work. Nobody knows, but it should work. And so we came to the conclusion that let's take half of the money we had left in the bank. At the time, it was about $1 million. Take half of that money and go buy this machine. Call this guy up. The company's called ICOS. Call this company up and I say, hey, listen, I heard about this machine. I'd like to buy one. And they go, oh, that's terrific, but we're out of business. I said, what? You're out of business? He goes, yeah, we had no customers. And I said, wait, hang on. So you never made the machine? They said, no, we made the machine. We have one in inventory if you want it, but we're out of business. So I bought one out of inventory. Okay. After I bought it, they went out of business.
Wow.
I bought it out of inventory. And on this machine, we put NVIDIA's chip into it, and we tested all of the software on top. And at this point, we were on fumes. But we convinced ourselves that chip is going to be great. And so I had to call some other gentleman. So I called TSMC. And I said, we have a lot of customers and the demand's really great. And we're going to tape out a chip to you. And I like to go directly to production. Because I know it works. And they said, nobody has ever done that before. Nobody has ever taped out a chip that worked the first time. And nobody starts out production without looking at it. But I knew that if I didn't start the production, I'd be out of business anyways. And if I could start the production, I might have a chance. And this gentleman is named Morris Chang. Morris Chang is the father of the foundry industry, the founder of TSMC. Really great man. He decided to support our company. I explained to them everything. He decided to support us, frankly, probably because they didn't have that many other customers anyhow. But they were grateful, and I was immensely grateful. And as we were starting the production, Morris flew to the United States, and he didn't so many words ask me so, but he asked me a whole lot of questions that was trying to tease out, do I have any money? But he didn't directly ask me that, And so the truth is that we didn't have all the money. But they supported us with all of that risk involved. We launched this chip. Turns out to have been completely revolutionary. Knocked the ball out of the park. We became the fastest growing technology company in history to go from 0 to $1 billion.
So wild that you didn't test the chip.
I know. Well,
Right
we
into
tested
production.
afterwards. Yeah, we tested afterwards.
Afterwards, but he went into production already.
But by the way, that methodology that we developed to save the company is used throughout the world today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we changed the whole world's methodology of designing chips, the whole world's rhythm of designing chips. We changed everything.
It's this man because he knows how to look around corners when it comes to AI. NVIDIA's in a quiet period right now, but what we want to hear from him, I think, is bigger picture. So let's start, Jensen, just by taking a few steps back. Again, everybody wants to know what's coming with AI. This is the fastest technological revolution we have ever seen. Things happen not in years, not in decades, but probably, weekly and monthly at this point. Things are changing pretty drastically. You're Wayne Gretzky. Tell us where the puck is going.
Well, first of all, let me tell you where the puck came from.
Okay.
And in just the last couple of years, what happened? I feel like I'm sitting on something that's causing all of this to happen. Is it me?
It might be me. Hold on. Better?
And so what happened was 2 years ago, ChatGPT came out. And what made ChatGPT revolutionary was the ability to generate generative AI. You give it a prompt, it can write you a story. You give it a prompt, it can make you a picture. You can give it a prompt, generate a video for you. You give it a video, it could generate a story. You can give it an image, it can, right? So on and so forth. You give it an image in 2D, and that generates an image in 3D. And so generative AI. The ability to generate has two profound capabilities. One, in order to think, you have to generate tokens in your mind. Inside.
What do you mean tokens?
Tokens. You have to generate thoughts. And so the fact that our ability to think and reason requires us to generate thoughts. So the moment we got AI to generate, we realized you can now think. You can now reason. The second thing is, in order to use external tools, you have to generate commands. And so when you use the browser, you have to generate words, control something else. Those two ideas, the moment that happened, the entire industry raced off to go figure out how to use generative AI to enable reasoning, which came out last year, and then now agentic AI, which is the ability for AI to understand, reason, plan, use tools to do something useful. So in the last several months, what happened is the industry took the Claude code, Anthropic's Claude code came out, and it was the first agentic system that was able to do really productive work like software coding. And
to what you believe. Forging all new fallacies, creating the next direct. Machine with all of the rest, DC, dying, electricity. waking dream, no hope for advance. You see, the more we serve is not but a spring. Unwind, too slow, too quick, too much to believe. Forging all new palaces, creating more master racks. The rest DC, dying, electricity. Falling back into the sea.
And software coding is a good first place to go. But remember what coding is. Coding is the codification of something you want to automate. And how many companies in the world, how many people in the world don't want to codify into a program something you want to automate over and over and over again? So it turns out coding is important for software engineers, but coding is super important for all companies. And this all happened in the last several months. And so AI in the last several months became useful. That's the big idea. The second big idea is that in order for AI to go through understanding, reasoning, planning, using tools to take action, the amount of computation necessary compared to generative AI is like 1,000 times more.
Yeah.
In 2 years' time, just think, in 2 years' time, the number of cars you need in the world grew by 1,000 times. In 2 years' time, the number of airplanes you need in the world grew by 2,000 times. Whatever it is that you want to use as a metric, the 1,000 times difference is incredible. But then you multiply that by the number of people who now want to use it by 100 times, which is the reason why GPU consumption is going through the roof, and over even GPUs we sold 4 or 5 years ago now are rising in price faster than good wine. And so
it has defied what every
buying NVIDIA GPU is like investing in art.
It has defied what everybody said was going to happen. If it's 1,000 times over the last year, the demand for compute, where do you see it next year? And how far out do you try and figure these things?
Well, the way to reason about this is you come back and you ask yourself, one, what is the usefulness of automation of intelligence, and who could benefit from it, and how would you benefit from it? That's number one. Number two, what kind of infrastructure is necessary to produce intelligence? And this is one of the big ideas in computer science, and this is something I reason about. Right now I'm talking to you guys, I'm reasoning step by step. And 15 years ago, I reasoned about what was going to happen with deep learning, which led NVIDIA to invest in all that stuff. And here we are. And so what's happening is the difference between the way computers are going to work in the future and the way computers work for you right now, you just have to pick up your phone and when you click on the news, remember that news article or that video of Becky was pre-recorded. You recorded it in advance, you stored it in the cloud somewhere, and then when I click it, I retrieve it. Now, in the future, you're going to still do a lot of that. However, most of the time that you're interacting with your computers, you're going to be giving the computer your intention. Are you asking a question? Would you like to do something? Are you thinking about something? You'd like somebody to debate with you? Is there a big planning thing that you want to do for a vacation or a wedding or whatever it is? And then you just tell the computer what you want, like you talk to a person, and it understands your intention, reasons about how to solve it, comes up with a plan, uses whatever tools it needs to use, goes to all these different web browsers and use whatever Excel, and maybe even use Photoshop, and creates wonderful things for you, generates a bunch of images, and then comes back with a brochure.
Yeah.
right? And so you got to ask yourself, therefore, if that's the way you use, if the first way you use computers is retrieval based, and now everything is generative, and it's contextually relevant, meaning you can't pre-record anything that I just said. And so, therefore, the number of computers in the world is going to grow incredibly. And this is the reason why I say AI is not just an application. AI actually reinvented the computer industry. AI invented a whole new industry. And for many of you in the audience, you're working with us at the energy level, of course, at the chip level, at the infrastructure level, land, power, and shell, cloud services, neo cloud, so on and so forth. Then it's the model layer. Most of the time we're talking about models, but the fact of the matter is without this underlying part, there is no models that's useful. And then most importantly is the application layer. The application layer in healthcare, in transportation, retail, you name it, financial services, all these different industries are not going to get revolutionized by artificial intelligence. And so when you break it up from that perspective, and you just kind of reason about it, it is very certain now that like the internet, which is everywhere, you're going to have computers computing like NVIDIA's GPUs literally everywhere, so that every time you use the computer, it can generate the proper response to you.
When you say, we're going to have all these computers, I think locusts, just how much demand there's going to be and how do we possibly keep up with that demand? And you just mentioned this stacking. It's the 5-layer cake that you've talked about for a while. Where are the weaknesses? Where are the limiting factors with meeting that demand?
It changes all the time. And 2 years ago, we had enough energy, but we were really short on chips. And it depends on what part of the chips we're talking about. Most people think that NVIDIA is a GPU company because we invented the GPU. But if you look at the systems we're creating today, there are 7 different types of chips. The computer that I'm talking about is probably twice the width of this stage. When we say Vera Rubin, it's twice the width of this stage. Each one of the racks is about $4 or $5 million, 3 tons, 1.5 million parts inside one of these racks. And inside a data center is a football field of these racks. And so these systems have silicon photonics inside. It's got the most advanced memories, three-dimensional packaging, liquid cooling, extremely sensitive electronics all over. And so it's really complicated stuff. We work with just about every chip company in the world, every systems maker in the world. We have the largest supply chain in the world. And so there's a bottleneck somewhere. And so it takes a lot of work just to work through all of that. And then of course, these days, one of the biggest challenges, and this is the part that people don't realize about AI, the first thing that AI is doing right now is creating an enormous number of jobs. AI creates jobs. AI is United States' best opportunity to reindustrialize ourselves because it takes 3 types of plants: chip plants, computer plants, AI factories that we're in. And so 3 types of manufacturing plants, probably several $1 trillion of reindustrialization we can do as a result of this. Nothing is more powerful than using market forces to drive reindustrialization. Like, for example, back in the last administration, there was this thing called CHIPS Act, and everybody was reluctant to build in the United States. When President Trump came into office, we talked and I said, hey, listen, tell you what, I'm going to give $500 billion of orders. I'm going to give $500 billion of orders to these suppliers, and I bet you they come to the United States. Boom, they all came to the United States to build it here. And so using market forces to reindustrialize the United States, it created hundreds. hundreds of thousands of jobs for the next 4 or 5 years. And then lastly, or if you want to, whatever version of sustainable energy you choose, you now have, plenty of customers who want to pay for it.
Is NVIDIA going to be investing in energy? Because you all have been making sure you're investing in whatever layer, whatever bottlenecks you find along the way. You recently said that this investment that you're making now in OpenAI will probably be the last one, because OpenAI, Anthropic, they're going to go public. They're not going to need you kind of propping them up. They'll have their own money other places. But what you've done is find where the bottlenecks are and try and invest NVIDIA money there. Is energy a place you would do that, or is that such a big investment hole that it's got to come from other places?
If there were good ideas and we could make a unique contribution, I'd be more than happy to. But most of the people who are investing in energy, their cycle times are, their time horizons fairly long, especially the ones that we're really interested in. And